Assalamu alaikum. So we are going to continue with the spot speed chapter, spot speed topic basically, and today we will talk about the most important item of the analysis about spot speed. Why it is important? Because it will determine if the things which we were doing yesterday are applicable or not. If you remember, on Sunday we started the discussion about normal distribution. And I told you at that time, and even yesterday, that all the equations which we had for confidence interval, for sample size, for before and after study are based upon the claim that spot speed data follows normal distribution. Now, how did I make this claim? How did I know that the spot speed data follows normal distribution? Based upon this graph, the frequency distribution graph. Let me show. Okay, this one, the first one. Okay, the second one doesn't have any specific shape. I was talking about the first graph, that it is a symmetric graph and it's a bell-shaped curve. Okay, now you can see two things here. First of all, it's symmetric but not exactly, right? It's almost symmetric. It's a almost symmetric curve, but it's not exactly symmetrical. It's not like a clean picture, right? Again, I have to keep on looking for people who cannot enter the class. Okay, so somebody may say that you are saying it's symmetric, but maybe there's a problem with your eyes. This curve is not symmetric. Let me make it bigger. Okay, so somebody may object to my judgment, and he may say this curve is not at all symmetric. You must get your eyes checked from a doctor, and I should. Anyways, and secondly, even if I do get a symmetric curve, even if you convince me or I convince the other person it's a symmetric curve, but am I joining all the points through this curve or not? I'm not joining all the points, right? You see, there are some points which are not on the curve at all. Okay, and then there are some points which are just touching the curve. Okay, so to say that we cannot say that this curve is passing through all the frequency distribution points of my data set. Okay, so we call this sort of a curve as a best fit curve. Okay, best fit curve, and there's an option in the Excel to plot this type of a curve. If you are doing it on Excel, then if you plot the data and you draw the trend line, if you use a function of trend line, you can have the best fit curve. Okay, so what is the best fit curve? I already know the shape of the curve, and then I draw the curve to fit that shape. Okay, and I try to get as close to the points, plotted points as possible. Okay, so I'm not exactly following the plotted points. I'm trying to follow a shape, and I told you the shape of the curve is like this, the bell shape curve. So I already know the shape, and I'm trying to find out the points, or I'm trying to join or get close to the points which will give me this shape. Okay, otherwise if I join points by points, then you will see a lot of irregularities, lot of zigzags in this curve. Okay, it will be going like this, up and down, up and down. Okay, so in order to make a smooth bell-shaped curve, I drew the best fit curve. If you are doing it by hand, obviously you can do it. Okay, just try to be as close to the plotted points. If you are doing it by Excel, then use the trend line option. So because of these two things, because of what was the first point? First point is your visual judgment. Okay, and it can vary from one person to another. One person may say this is a symmetric curve, this is a bell-shaped curve. Another one may say even after plotting the best fit curve, it is not symmetric. Okay, And the other point is, whenever you are plotting the best fit curve, all the points will not be joined. So whatever curve you are having, it's an approximate curve. So based upon this approximation and based upon your visual judgment, you cannot say for sure that the data follows normal distribution. Your claim that the data follows normal distribution is now doubtful. In order to remove this doubt, I must do something mathematically. I must prove my claim mathematically. Okay, so like we did the z-test yesterday for before and after study, today we will do a chi-square test. So this is a chi-square test. This is the equation for a chi-square test, and please don't call it chi-square because I love chai. Okay, it's chi-square. So in order to calculate chi-square, you need two things, n and f. And remember, I'm talking about the speed data. The speed data is divided into speed groups, right? We have speed groups with 32 to 34, 34 to 36. So these are speed groups. So for each speed group, I need n and I need f. What is n? N is the observed frequency of the group, which you already have from the field. We have done so many analysis using n. We calculated mean, we calculated standard deviation, okay, and many other things. So n is already there for each speed group once you have collected the data. Now I need f. What is f? F is the theoretical frequency of each speed group. Meaning if your speed group follows normal distribution, then its frequency should be f. Okay, but it is n. So how much, basically what I am calculating here is how much is the difference between the actual and the theoretical frequency. Okay, so n minus f means observed frequency minus theoretical frequency, then you take the square upon theoretical frequency. Okay, so n is already there. I need f now. For each speed group I must find out f. So to find out f, I have a whole procedure, and now please pay attention. Okay, because if you miss one step, then the other values will be wrong as well. Okay, so now you have to prepare a new table for chi-square test, which is this one. Okay, let us start from the first two columns. First two columns are upper speed limit, lower speed limit, the speed groups. Okay, the speed groups which you have already made at the time of data collection. But I have made few changes in this table. Okay, in this speed groups. First of all, you can see it is starting. Is it not starting from 0 and it is not ending at 0? So the extra groups which I had at the start and at the end, they are removed for chi-square. For chi-square, they are there in the frequency distribution table, but they are removed for the chi-square test. Okay, then I arrange the group in descending order. So the highest speed group which had a value, okay, not the 0 one, which had some value. Okay, so you can see here value of 2. So the highest speed group was basically 66 to 68, I think. So I removed that. Then the next one was 64 to 66, which is there. Then the next one is 62 to 64 and so on. Okay, so you go from the highest speed group which has a value to the lowest speed group which has a value, and in descending order. Okay, so the highest will be at the top, the lowest will be at the bottom. Then you take the upper limit of the highest speed group and remove it with infinity. Replace the upper limit of the highest speed group with infinity. Okay, and then for the lowest speed group, I take the lower limit and replace it with minus infinity. So highest value of the upper limit of the highest speed group replaced with infinity. The lower limit of the lowest speed group replaced with minus infinity. Okay, and then you will write the frequencies as per the group. So whatever the frequency observed in each group, you will write it. Okay, obviously it will be reversed as well. Then for each upper limit, you calculate the z value, and I told you on Sunday that z value can be calculated using this equation. So you can convert any x value into standard normal distribution using this equation. What is this equation? X minus mu upon sigma. What is mu? Mean. And what is sigma? Standard deviation. So for this data, I've already found out the mean and standard deviation. So I can calculate z. So let us take the first value. First value is infinity. And the good thing about infinity is you multiply, divide, add, subtract anything, it does not make any change, right? So infinity will remain infinity, because infinity is a very large number. So even if you add 1 or 2 or 3 into this, it will not change it from infinity. Okay, so infinity remains infinity. Okay, infinity remains infinity. Then I will start the calculation from the next value. The next value is 64. Remember, I am only converting the upper limits. 64. Okay, so let me show you what I get. So in order to convert 64 to the z value, 64 minus mean, so mean of this data was 48.2, we already calculated last week, divided by standard deviation, which is 6.14. That is the standard deviation again for the data set we already calculated. So if you calculate this value, it should come out to be 2.57. The value which is given here should come out to be 2.57. Now if you do it for 62, the next upper limit, then you just copy the whole thing. Copy, I mean you redo the whole thing. Just replace 64 with 62. Everything else remains the same because mean and standard deviation is for the whole group. Okay, so when you do this, the second one, you should get 2.25. Okay, so the first value should be 2.57 and the next one should be 2.25. Okay, so this is how you calculate the z value for each upper limit. Okay, then the next column is the probability of these z values. So you have to go to the z table, right? You have to go to the z table. Now two things you have to understand here. First of all, something which I explained yesterday as well. Now the value here is infinity. If you go to the z table, obviously you will not find infinity in the z table. No? So what did I tell you yesterday about any value which is more than the value given in the table? Its probability will be 100%, meaning 1. Okay, so infinity has a probability of 1. Why? Because it is more than the value given in the table. Okay, and why? Because the values in the table are cumulative probabilities and the last one is 0.9998. So if you go more than that, it will become 100% or 1. Then, so in this column, if you have any value which is more than 3.49, 3.49 is the highest value given in the z table. So any value which is more than 3.49 in this column will have a probability of 1. Okay. Then you can see some negative values as well, but if you go to the z table, it is only containing positive values. Why? Because this is only half of the z table. The actual z table includes negative as well as positive values. So if you have the full z table, which you can find online or which you can find in any statistics book as well. Okay, it's very common. It's very commonly available. So if you can find out the z table, if you can find the full z table, then no problem. You will see the negative numbers there as well, and you can find out the probability of the negative number directly. But in case you don't have the z table, in case you just have the z table from the book, which is only having positive numbers, so then how you can calculate the probability of the negative number? You will take the complementary probability, okay, which is 1 minus the probability of the positive number. How? For example, I need the first two negative numbers are 0.03 and 0.36. So how do I find out the probability of minus 0.03 and minus 0.36? Let me show it to you. First of all, 0.03. Go to the z table, find out the probability of 0.03. Where is 0.03? 0.0 is here and 0.03 is here. So the probability is 0.5120. The probability of plus 0.03 is 0.5120. What will be the probability of minus 0.03? Is complementary. Okay, so this is how you write the probability. Z less than equal to minus 0.03 equals 1 minus probability of z less than equal to plus 0.03. Okay, so the probability of plus 0.03 was 0.5120. So the probability for minus 0.03 will be minus 1 minus 0.5120. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so I think it is 0.48 something. It's given in the table. Okay, then the next number was minus 0.36. So if you want the probability for minus 0.36, then 0.3 is this one and 0.06 is here. Okay, so this value basically 0.6406. Okay, I think I'm correct. Yes, 0.6406. So the probability of plus 0.36 is 0.6406. So the probability for minus 0.36 will be 1 minus 0.6406. Okay. So again, the probability is given in the table. I will go back to the table. Okay. So after you take the minus, you should be getting where is it? 0.3594. Okay. So the first one is 0.4880, and the second one for minus 0.36 is 0.3594. Okay. Then you so these probabilities in the Z table are cumulative probabilities. So if you remember, when I was showing the probability, I used less than equal to sign. Why? Because these are cumulative, so it contains all the probabilities of the previous numbers as well. You can see it on the top of the table as well, on top of the column. They have written it as less than equal to. Why? Because these probabilities are cumulative. So when I say probability of 2.457, I mean 2.57 or less. Okay, any value which is 2.57 or less than that has a cumulative probability of 0.9949 and so on. I have cumulative probabilities. Now I want to find out probability in each group. So at the start of this at the start of the calculation of this chapter, we did the reverse, right? We had the individual frequencies and individual percentages, and we calculated the cumulative. So what did we do? We added, right? Cumulative is addition of all the values. So now you have cumulative, you want individual. So what do? You reverse. Instead of addition, now you do subtraction. So the first value 0.0051, how do I get it? 1 minus 0.9949. Second value 0.0071 equals 0.9949 minus 0.9878. Okay, so for each value you will subtract the individual. You will subtract the cumulative probabilities of the two groups. Okay, so you keep on doing it until you get to the last row. So last row means 0.0104. After that I have nothing, so 0.0104 will be written as it is. Okay, there is nothing to subtract after that, so the last value will repeat in the next column. Okay, now using these probabilities I will find out the theoretical frequency. What is theoretical frequency? Multiply the probability for each group with the total number of values, summation of small n or capital N. Now for this example, the total number of values were 368. Total number of values were 368. So each value will be multiplied with 368. Remember, capital N is a constant, which is the total number of values for the whole data set. So it will not change for each group. So each probability will be multiplied by the total number of values, not number of values in each group. Total number of values, which is 368. So 0.0051 multiplied by 368 is 1.8768. 0.0071 multiplied by 368, 2.6128, and so on. Okay, so now you have the n value and you have the f value. Remember, for doing chi-square I need n and f. So now I have n and I have f. N was already there, I have calculated f. Now I should be able to perform chi-square, but before that there is a check you have to perform, and the check is that no f value should be less than 5. No f value should be less than 5. If it is less than 5, you have to merge that group with the next one. If it is less than 5, you have to merge that group with the next one. Okay, now if you look at it, look at this column. So I have 4 values which are less than 5. The first two groups and the last two groups. Okay, all of them are less than 5. Okay, so I should merge them together. I should take one group at a time, and I should merge it with the next one to see if the resulting value is more than 5 or not, or 5 or not. Even if you get 5, it is enough. Even if you get to 5, it is enough. So the first group 1.8768. Merge it with the next one because it's less than 5. Merge it with the next one. Next value is 2.6128. You merge these two together, you will still not get 5. So even after merging, I'm not getting 5. Now, so I will now merge it with the third group. Okay, so 1.8768 plus 2.6128 plus 5.5936. Now obviously when you merge all of them together, you will get more than 5 because the third group already has more than 5. Okay, so the resulting f value is 10.0832. final F value is 10.0832. Okay. Since you have merged the F values, you must merge the N values as well. Okay. So merging of the first three groups, 2 plus 3 plus 7. So the merged N value is 12. Okay. So 2 plus 3 plus 7. Okay. Then you go along this column. All values are more than 5 until you reach this one, the second last group. Okay. So it is less than 5. I will merge is the next group. So 4.7472 plus 3.8272. The combined value is 8.5744, which is more than 5. No problem. Since you merge the F values, you have to merge the N values as well. For the last two groups, 5 plus 5 means 10. Okay. So now you have all groups having more than 5 F value. Okay. Then you go to the now you have N value and F value for each group. You will calculate chi-square for each group. Okay, what is chi-square? N minus F square upon F. So for the first group, it will be 12 minus 10.0832 square upon 10.0832. The answer is 0.3644. Next one, 10 minus 10.8192 square upon 10.8192. The answer is 0.0620, and so on. Okay. So you calculate the chi-square for each group, then you do the summation because you need it for the whole data set. So the summation of all the chi-square is 11.6669. 11.6669. Now, like we have a z table, we have a chi-square table as well. So I must find out the probability of chi-square for this data set. How much is the probability of chi-square for this data set? Okay, how much is the probability of chi-square to have this value? This is basically what I mean. Okay, so if you go to the chi-square table, you can see the chi-square table. These values in the table are chi-square values. The first column shows DF. DF stands for degrees of freedom. DF means degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom. And the top row gives me the probability of these chi-square values. Okay, so the top row is the probability. So it is slightly changed from the z table. In the z table, the probability was in the table, and the z value was on the top row and the first column. Here, first column is degrees of freedom, top row is probabilities, and the table contains the chi-square values. Okay. Now, how do you calculate degrees of freedom? Degrees of freedom is number of chi-square values you have, or number of speed groups you have, because for each speed group you have a chi-square value, right? So number of speed groups you have minus 3. Now I'm not talking about the initial speed groups. I'm talking after merging. So sometimes you may merge 2 groups, sometimes you may merge 3 groups, sometimes you may merge 4 or 5 groups. Okay. So after merging, then you will count how many speed groups are left. So how many speed groups are left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 14 speed groups left after merging. Initially, they were, I think, 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom, so 14 plus 3, they were 17. Okay, so after merging, we are left with 14. Okay, in some cases, you may not merge anything. Maybe directly all the F values are more than 5, so maybe no merging is required. Okay, so merging is not a requirement, it is not mandatory, it will depend upon the F values. Okay, so I have 14 speed groups, so degrees of freedom will be 14 minus 3, 11. 11. Okay, and how much is my chi-square value? 11.6669. So you come to the chi-square table, see where is 11 degrees of freedom, this row. Now if you go along this row, where is 11.669? I'm trying to find out 11.6669. So 11.6669 will be between these two values, 10.34 and 13.7. Okay, after 13.7 it is more than that, so it is, I cannot go forward, and below 10.3 it is less than that. So 11.6669 is between these two values. Okay, what is the probability at 10.34? 0.5. What is the probability at 13.7? 0.25. So in order to find out the probability at 11.6669, I have to do interpolation. I have to do interpolation. Okay. Now we did interpolation in highway course as well for earthworks. Before that, you must have done interpolation in other courses as well. For surveying, I know for sure, but I do not trust you. So as per my experience, so I will just show you briefly the main equation for interpolation, and I will show you the values for this interpolation. So Interpolation is x minus x1 divided by y minus y1 equals x1 minus x2 divided by y1 minus y2. Okay, where x is what? The value I want. So x is unknown. X is unknown. X1 is the value before x. Okay, so x is the probability which I am trying to find out. X1 is the probability before that. Okay, so I'm trying to find out the probability between 0.5 and 0.25. So before I have 0.5 and after I have 0.25. So x1 is 0.5 and x2 is 0.25. x1 is 0.5, x2 is 0.25. Okay, and y1 and y2 are the chi-square values at x1 and x2. So y1 is a chi-square at x1 and y2 is a chi-square at x2. So y1 equals 10.34 and y2 equals 10.34, yes, 10.34. y2 is 13.7. Okay, can you calculate the x value? How much is the x value? Yes, x value. Yeah, sorry, y will be the y which is at the required x value, which is 11.669 or 6669, I think. So this is y. So now give me the value of x. How much is x? .401, okay, or 0.40, that's enough, okay, 0.401, okay, 1.401. Now what is the check? I am doing a test, right? It's a chi-square test. So what is the criteria of the test? The criteria is if the probability of chi-square is less than 0.05. If the probability of chi-square is less than 0.05, then my data does not follow normal distribution. If the probability of chi-square is less than 0.05, the data does not follow normal distribution. If it is more than 5, the data follows normal distribution. In this case, 0.401 is more than 0.05. That means the data follows normal distribution. Got it? Simple. Find out chi-square, find out the probability. If it is less than 0.05, the data does not follow normal distribution and vice versa. Okay. Now a couple of points here. First of all, a trick. Okay. A trick where you can save interpolation, where you don't have to do interpolation. The trick is you are doing interpolation between 0.5 and 0.25. Both values are more than 0.05. Okay, so interpolation will obviously give you value more than 0.05. Okay, when you are doing interpolation between two values and both of them are more than 0.05, so the answer of interpolation will be more than 0.05. So even without interpolation, you can tell me the data does not follow normal distribution. Oh, sorry, the data follows normal distribution. The data follows normal distribution because the resulting value will be more than 0.05. So the data follows normal distribution. Okay, so you may say I already tricked you into doing the interpolation. Now I'm telling you this. The life, people are like that. They are unfair. Huh? And so am I. Okay, so this is one point. Okay, so if your chi-square is between two probabilities or between two values for which the probabilities are more than 0.05, so even without interpolation you can tell me that the data follows normal distribution because the resulting probability will be more than 0.05, and vice versa. If you are doing interpolation between two values for which the probabilities are both of them less than 0.05, then obviously the answer will be less than 0.05. So even without interpolation, you can tell me that the data does not follow a normal distribution. Okay, so you can save your time for interpolation. One. Secondly, if you go to the chi-square table, you can see the degrees of freedom are starting from 1. And degrees of freedom depend upon what? Number of speed groups. Okay, and I told you at the start, you are the one who is making number of speed groups, right? You are deciding how much should be the interval between between one is for each speed group, right? So in this example, the interval was 2. For each speed group, I had an interval of 2. So if I select an interval of 1, then I can have more speed group, right? So I can play with the number of speed groups. Okay, this is in my hand. I can play with it. What should you keep in mind? For example, if you have 2 speed groups, okay, and then you calculate degrees of freedom, 2 minus 3 is what? Minus 1. So do you see minus 1 here? No. So that means 2 speed groups or 1 speed group is not enough. Can I have 3 speed groups and have degrees of freedom? No, because 3 minus 3 will give you 0. So degrees of freedom or the number of speed groups cannot be 3 as well. It should at least be 4. Number of speed groups should at least be 4. So whenever you are selecting the intervals for the speed group, must select it so that you have at least 4. And I will tell you, because even with 4, when you calculate the chi-square, when you calculate the f value, you may have to do some merging. So even 4 is dangerous, because if you do some merging, then you will be left with 3 or 2 groups. So again, you cannot find the chi-square, okay, or you cannot use the chi-square table. So at least have 5 groups. So even after merging, if you have to merge one group, even after that you have at least 1 degree of freedom. Okay, so number of speed groups should be at least 5. At least 5, and more is better. At least 5, more is better. Like in this case, we had 17. We did some merging. We are left with 14, which is it's still enough. So when you are making the number of speed groups, make sure you have at least 5 or more. Okay, so you have to keep in mind. Now let us look at this example. This example is from the book, and it's not an example, it's a problem. And this problem, you will see, we will revise all the calculations which we have done for the spot speed data. Okay, so it's like a revision. Okay, and don't worry, we will have a tutorial on Thursday as well to refresh your concepts. So in this speed data, you can see the number of vehicles in each speed group are given. Okay, and they have given me with the 0 values as well. So I have a 0 group at the start, 0 group at the end. Okay, which is for normal distribution. Okay, now the interval between the speed group is 5 now. So like I said, you can play with it. If they had adopted an interval of 2, like the previous example, they would have more groups, right? To go up to 65, they will have more groups. Okay, but now in this case, they are saying 5 is enough. So you have the number of values. Now from this data, we have to do certain tasks. The first task is to find out frequency and cumulative frequency and plot them. So we have to plot the frequency and cumulative frequency curves. Frequency is percentage of values in each group, and cumulative is the addition of these values. Okay, so for finding out frequency, it will be the number in each group divided by the total number of values. So how many values we have? How many total number of vehicles we have? Can you give me the total of this column? Summation of n or capital N. How much is the total of this column? 0, 4, 9, 18, 35, 42, 32, 20 and 9. How much will be that? Yes, total number of vehicles. Okay, total number of vehicles are 169. Okay, good. 169 vehicles. So what will I do for frequency? I'll take each number divided by 169. So 0 divided by 169, 0. 4 divided by 169, 2.37%. 9 divided by 169, 5.33%, and so on. Okay. Then cumulative, you take the frequency of that group and add it with the previous one. So the first value is 0. Second value is 0 plus 2.37, so 2.37. Third value is 2.37 plus 5.33, so 7.69. And the fourth value is 7.69 plus 10.65, so 18.34. Okay, and so on. So now you have the frequency and cumulative frequency. You plot them. Frequency distribution curve, you plot the middle speed. So for each speed group, find out the middle speed. So the first one will be 17.5, second one will be 22.5, which is basically the average of these two numbers, right? Average or the midpoint of these two numbers, upper and lower limit. And then you plot the frequency, okay? So frequency means column. So this column on the y-axis and middle speed on the x-axis. You plot them, you get this curve, and you can see I have plotted the best fit curve again. So it is not touching all the points. It is not passing through all the points, but it looks like a bell-shaped curve. Okay, more or less. Okay, again it's an approximation. And then you have the cumulative frequency curve, and I have joined all the points because there is no specific shape for that. It will start at 0 and at 100, and I'm plotting on the x-axis. I'm plotting the upper limit. On the y-axis, I'm plotting the cumulative frequency. So on the x-axis, I'm plotting 20, 25, 30, and so on. The y-axis, I'm plotting this column. Okay, so the first part is done. Second part is find out median, mode, pace, and the percentage of vehicles in the pace range. Okay, median is the 50th percentile speed, okay, which you will find out from the cumulative frequency curve. So in the cumulative frequency curve, go to the y-axis, find out 50%, draw perpendicular to the curve, find out the speed at that point, which is 42.5. So median for this speed group is, for this speed data is 42.5 miles per hour. Mode is the value which you will find at the peak frequency in the frequency distribution curve, this curve. So come to this curve, at this point find out how much is the speed. At this point find out how much is the speed. I forgot to write the speed here, but if you have plotted the data, just simply draw a line from here and you will find out the speed. I think I have, yeah, this one. Okay, I did not write the value, but it is very close to, I think, 43 or 44. Okay, the value is somewhere between 43 and 44. Okay, the mode value. So you go to the top part of the curve and draw a perpendicular on the x-axis, and you find the mode. Okay, the next value is pace range. The next pace range. So for the pace range, I told you, first of all, find out the scale of the x-axis. According to that scale, draw a box. So this is a box which has a width equal to 10 miles per hour on the x-axis. You can see it here. And then place that box in the middle of the curve and see where the two edges of the box are touching the sides of the curve. So this edge is touching here, this edge is touching here. So if you draw the perpendiculars on the x-axis from these 2 points, there will give you the value of the pace range. So this value, which is touching this corner of the curve, where the corner of the box is touching the side of the curve, is 37.5, and the other one is 47.5. Okay, how did I get it? Draw a box which has a length of 10 miles per hour on the x-axis according to the scale of the x-axis, and then place this box in the middle of the curve. Okay, and wherever the two corners or the two edges of the box are touching the two sides of the curve, find out the speed at those points, and that will be the pace. Next thing we have to find out is how many drivers are driving within this range between 37.5 and 47.5. So what is the percentage of vehicles which have a speed between 37.5 and 47.5 miles per hour? So for that, I will use the cumulative frequency curve. Okay, so the first value is 37.5 on the x-axis. Find out where is 37.5, which is this value. You go up to the curve, draw a perpendicular on the y-axis. This will give you the percentage of vehicles which are driving between 0 and 37.5. So this percentage comes out to be 22%. Between 0 and 37.5, we have 22% drivers, because this is a cumulative frequency curve, remember, so it is always from 0. Then do the same thing for 47.5. Come to the x-axis, 47.5, draw a perpendicular on the curve, then drop the perpendicular on the y-axis, find out the cumulative frequency for 47.5. It is 78%. So 78% drivers are driving between the speed of 0 and 47.5. So from 0 to 37.5 is 22%. From 0 to 47.5 is 78%. So how many are driving between 37.5 and 47.5? Their difference. So you take the difference of 78 and 22, you get 56%. So 56% drivers are driving between 37.5 and 47.5, or the speed of 56% vehicles was between 37.5 and 47.5 miles per hour. Okay. Moving forward, the next thing we have to calculate is mean and standard deviation. Okay, so these are the equations for mean and standard deviation. Okay, we have already seen them earlier as well. So we need these things. For each speed group, I have to calculate n into s and n into s square. Okay, n is number of values in each group and s is the middle speed. So I have the data. From the data, first of all, I have calculated the middle speed. You can see it here. 15 and 20, middle is 17.5. 20 and 25, middle is 22.5, and so on. Then this is n, number of vehicles in each group. You multiply 0 with 17.5, you get n into s. And if you multiply 0 with 17.5 square, you get n into s square. So 4 into 22.5 gives you 90, which is n into s. And 4 into 22.5 square gives you 2025, which is n s square. Okay, what is capital N? Which is the total number of values, which is 169. So first of all, you will find the mean, because mean is required here as well in the standard deviation equation. So you find out the mean, and then you find out the standard deviation values, and it's 169. Mean is 42.05, and the standard deviation is 8.12 miles per hour. Okay. So these we are just putting the values in the equation. Then we have to find out the confidence intervals for 95% confidence level and 99.7% confidence level. Okay, meaning the range of values for 95% of all drivers and 99.7% of all drivers. So this is applying the central limit theorem basically. So according to central limit theorem, 95% drivers are in this range, x bar plus minus 1.96 e, and 99.7% drivers are within this range, x bar plus minus 3 e, and e equals s upon root of n. Standard deviation, and n is the number of values. So s is 8.12 and n is 169. So first of all, you calculate e, and then you calculate these two ranges. So e is 0.624, x bar is 42.05, which I calculated in the previous slide. So when you calculate the ranges, 95% confidence interval, confidence bound or confidence interval means the same thing. Confidence bound and confidence interval mean same thing. So confidence interval for 95% drivers is 40.83 to 43.28, and 99.7% confidence interval is 40.18 to 43.93. And as I told you, this is for the whole population of drivers. This is not for this one sample of 169. This is for the complete population of drivers. Okay, this is the central limit theorem. Then the last thing, sorry, not the last thing. Second last thing is, if I am trying, if I do another study, spot speed study on the same location. Same location means these are the same drivers, and I will use the same methods. So I want to find out how many samples I should collect, sample size, how many samples I should collect, how many n, how much should be the n value if I want to do another study on the same site with a confidence level of 95%. So I want to be confident about my result up to 95%. I want to cover the 95% range of all drivers, and the tolerance level is 0.8 miles per hour. Okay, so for 95% confidence level, n is calculated using this equation. We saw it yesterday. So s is the standard deviation, which is 8.12 for my data set, and e is, so now here I will not assume it because the standard deviation is already known at this location for the speeds, and e is the tolerance level, which is 0.8. You put these two values, you get n as 394. So in order to cover 95% of the population of the drivers, in order to be sure 95% about your data, with a precision of 0.8 miles per hour, you must collect at least 394 values. More than that. The last thing is, can we describe this data as normal distribution data? So then you have to prepare the chi-square table. So you can see, first of all, I have removed the zero frequency groups. Then the first one is starting from infinity to 55. So the first value was actually 60 to 55. So I replaced 60 with infinity, and the last value of the lowest group with the value was 20 to 25. So 20 is replaced with minus infinity. Okay, you can convert each upper limit into z value. So the first one is infinity, will remain infinity. Second one will be 55 minus mean upon standard deviation. So 55 minus what is mean? Mean was 40. How much was it? 45.02, I think. Right? 0.05. Sorry. So 55 minus 42.05 upon standard deviation, which was 8.12. Then same thing for every speed limit, every upper limit speed. So you have the z value, you go to the z table, find out its probability. For infinity, it will be 1 because it's more than the value given in the table. For the rest of the values, you have to find out from the table. And for the negative value, you will do 1 minus. Okay, so you find out the probability for 0.254, and then you do 1 minus that probability, you will get the probability of minus 0.254. Okay, then you need the probability of individual groups, so you do the subtraction for 2 consecutive groups. So 1 minus 0.9432 gives you 0.0568, then 0.9432 minus 0.8078 gives you 1.1354. Then you multiply each of these frequencies with 169, which is the total number of values. You get the theoretical frequencies. Then you check if theoretical frequencies are less than 5. So I have one group which has a frequency of less than 5. So I have to merge it with the next group. So if you merge 3.1772 with 8.3317, the combined value is 11.5089. So I satisfy my criteria. It is more than 5 now. Okay, since I merged the f values, I have to merge the n values as well. So 9 plus 4 gives you 13. So now I have the n and f for each group. You calculate the chi-square, and then you will add all the chi-square values to get the chi-square for the entire data set. The total chi-square is 1.57. Then I must know the degrees of freedom. For degrees of freedom, find out how many groups you are left with after merging. So how many groups I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so degrees of freedom is 7 minus 3. Number of groups minus 3. So 7 minus 3. And chi-square is 1.57. Go to the chi-square table. Okay, 7 degrees of freedom is here. Okay, and chi-square of 1.57. 1.57 is between these two values, right? Between 1.259 and 1.690. Okay, for 1.259 the probability is 0.99. For 1.69 the probability is 0.9745. How much is my limit? It should be less than 0.05, right? In order to say it is not following normal distribution, the limit is less than 0.05. So both these probabilities are more than 0.05. So even if you do the interpolation for 1.57, you will get a value of more than 0.05. So even without interpolation, I can say the probability of chi-square is more than 0.05. So it follows normal distribution. The data follows normal distribution. Okay. So on Thursday we will do another set of calculation. And one more thing which I want to do on Thursday, we have already finished the time now. I have seen that the submission date of your project and the test are very close to each other. So I want to shift the test after. So the submission of date of the second submission of the project will remain as it is, but I want to shift the date of the test. Okay, so we will discuss it at the start on the class on Thursday. Okay, we'll discuss it at the start of the class on Thursday. Okay, so come early, join early on Thursday so that you are part of the discussion which we are having for the test date, and I will select the time as well because last time we had problems when I tried to make it in different times. Okay, so come early. Dua Rabi. Dua Rabi is there. Okay, sorry. Amna Muhammad Rafiq. Amna Muhammad Rafiq. Amna is here. Muhammad Osama. Okay, Muhammad Osama is here. Amal Abdullah. Muhammad Noman is here. Amal Abdullah is here. Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad. Sayyid is here. Abdullah Jalil. Abdul Rahman Ibrahim.
دكتور
Okay.
علي محمد دكتور علي محمد
Okay.
دكتور
Okay. Nujul Salah. Nadine Hussam. Zahra Riyad. I mark your attendance, you can leave. If I mark your attendance, you can leave. Abu Bakr Wani. Okay. Zainab is here. Mariam Abdul Amir. Mariam Abdul Amir. Majd Bashar. Asil Hassan. Ali Mustafa. Ahmad Khalid. Abdullah Usamuddin. Usamuddin is there. Latifa is there. Okay. Fatma Abdali. Zainab Abdali. Okay, Zainab Abdul Al is here. Ala Salman. Ala Salman is here. Zainab Abdali is here. Isra Abdul Kareem. Ali Abdul Razak. Okay, Elizabeth Ann. Ali Makki. Elizabeth is here. Okay, Ali Makki, Ibrahim, both are here. Okay, fine. Anyone left? Leave anyone?
Yes, doctor, I'm from section 1.
Okay. This from section Iman. Okay. Who else from section 1? Okay. Who else? Ahmad Amin, Mishal Fayad, Dana Isa. Okay. Ahmad Amin. Khalid Qasim. Mishal Fayad. Dana Isa. Okay, done. So I'll see you guys on Thursday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.